It's a Sims world after all.
This video falls under Section 107 of the Copyright Act. Allowance is made for fair use for videos such as educational purposes and commentary. This video falls under commentary. Hello friends and welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you have been here before. My name's Amy and I play games basically. So just to know, as I was actually scripting this video, I was being bullied and tormented by my 2-year-old niece. So that's an interesting fact for you. I've got a bit of a sore throat as I'm filming this. Whenever I have a weekend away booked, I always seem to get a cold. So yeah, that's nice. But I am medicating on cold and flu tablets, so I should be fine. Anyway, so I wanted to get a video out. My Xbox isn't really ready for playing games at the moment, and my laptop's not really ready to do screen recording and all that because everything's sort of packed away and ready to go with me to Birmingham. So I wanted to get a video out, obviously, and I thought we've still got more Doctor Who specials coming out, and I really enjoyed making my last video, even though it got copyright striked. So, you know, every grey cloud has a silver lining? That kind of thing? I don't know what the quote is. So yeah, I got copyright striked. So I recorded this part already, full voiceover, everything, the lot. Did it, everything was going great, until I replayed it and realised that it sounded awful. Now, I'm using a headset, I bought a new one. Microphone broke. After Christmas, hopefully I'll be able to invest in a better one, but right now, cash isn't looking so good. Anyway, so, now on to the actual video. So, on the 27th of November, I decided to sit down in the dark and watch Blink. Now, I was terrified of this as a kid, like proper fear. Just imagine 6-year-old me trembling in fear. When I first watched it, I couldn't rewatch any episode of Doctor Who with the Weeping Angels in. And I watched The Time of Angels first because I was about 6 when that came out. But I couldn't watch any other episodes with Weeping Angels in. So, to get over that, to try and do better, try and be a bit braver and prove myself, I decided to rewatch it. So it was a cold, rainy night, and on the 27th of November, I sat in the dark and I watched Blink. So I've been sleeping quite well recently. I haven't had a nightmare, which is something for me because I was suffering from them a lot. And this fucked up my schedule. My sleeping schedule was completely ruined. The episode begins innocuously enough with Sally Sparrow exploring an abandoned house where she finds a message from someone called the Doctor. But oddly, this message isn't given to her. No, it's hidden under wallpaper, which is quite odd. But as soon as the Weeping Angels make their terrifying debut, you don't even give a shit about this odd wallpaper. You're like, it's a bit odd, but you're like, they're fucking creepy. And I've never liked them. I love them now. I have this appreciation for them, but I still remember the fear I felt as a little girl. And yeah, the Weeping Angels are my childhood nightmare. So I thought, I'm going to face it, I'm going to try and get over it, and I'm going to explain and find a way to figure out what makes the angels so scary. And I figured that out. I know what makes them scary. That's the whole fucking point of them. But I am no closer to being over them than I was when I was 6 years old. And that is insane. To revisit a show 14 years later, the same episode, and to find it just as scary. Well, no, because I didn't actually watch Blink back then. I watched Blink a bit after, but, to revisit the same creature 14 years later and to still be shit scared of them that is just evidence of how much of a genius Russell T Davies and Stephen Moffat and everyone on Doctor Who, everyone who works into making the show a success, every single one of those people are geniuses, and I'm in awe of them. So yeah, as soon as the Weeping Angels make their terrifying debut, the atmosphere changes. These stone statues are like they can only move when they're not seen, so they have to cover their face, because otherwise when they stood and stared at each other, they'd put themselves in a quantum lock. Uh, the Doctor explains it probably better than I can. I might include a snippet of that.
Creature, the angels literally cease to exist. They're just stone. Until you turn your back.
So yeah, terrifying. They filled me and a whole heap of other Whovians with this unmistakable dread. And I've got to say, the implementation of suspense in Blink is absolutely unparalleled. And I know I'm like repeating myself, but it's because this episode is truly incredible, and I would dare say that it's unrivaled by any other episode of Doctor Who. That's my cat coming to say hello. As I watched Sally Sparrow attempt to outsmart these malevolent beings, a sense of helplessness began to consume me. The dread of turning away from screen, even for a second, overwhelmed me. The thought of these creatures inching closer, ready to pounce, was nothing short of terrifying. Sorry, I'm having to move my laptop because my cat thinks that it's a toy, and she's been annoying. I I was always told by my family members and stuff how scary Doctor Who was. And yeah, there were some episodes that got me. I'm still a bit frightened by the whole. I would have nightmares after hearing the sound of Cybermen like marching down the road, just like their big heavy boots terrified me as a kid. But that was because I didn't like loud noises. But everyone told me how scary Doctor Who was. I didn't really see it back then. Daleks didn't scare me. Weeping Angels did. And I think what truly sets Blink apart is the ability it has to tap into our deepest fears. Like the fear of the unknown and the fear of what's lurking in the dark. Because if we don't know what's in the dark, we cannot know how to deal with it. We don't know how to fight it. We're clueless, and we don't like being kept in the dark, but either figuratively or literally. So, yeah. The Weeping Angels with like their malicious intent, and they were lurking behind, and it was lurking behind their stone-like facade. It taps into our primal sense of vulnerability. They embody our fear of the dark, our fear of the unseen, and our realization that even the most mundane objects and things can hold unimaginable horror. They prey on a vulnerability that we cannot control. Think about it, we have to blink. If we didn't blink, our eyes would be all dry and we'd probably be even more miserable than we already are. And in my case, that's bloody saying something. I mean, even Amy Pond struggles not to blink.
If something moves, it'll move faster. Don't even blink.
I'm not blinking. Have you ever tried not blinking?
And I think that's the mastery of Doctor Who, to turn a routine task, something that is necessary for us to do, whether it's just a little thing, something we don't even think about. I mean, we blink, I'd say millions, thousands of times per day. I don't know the exact number, I haven't exactly sat here and counted. And we don't remember doing it. It is a conscious part of our life, but we don't think about doing it. We don't need to. It's just like breathing. It's something we just do. And Doctor Who manages to turn something like that into a matter of life and death. And I don't think it's ever been done as well as it was in Blink. And I would say that the angels are the most terrifying enemy, foe, whatever you want to call them, that the Doctor has ever faced. And it's certainly the scariest I've ever seen. And I've pretty much watched all of Doctor Who now, including the classic series, you know, and none of them have scared me quite as much as Weeping Angels. And I remember, like, my older family members, they were around to watch the classic Doctor Who, and they would always tell me how Doctor Who was a show that you watched behind the sofa, and I could understand why, you know. The Daleks, they could be scary when you first see them, but I understood it, but I'd never experienced it. At least not until the Weeping Angels. You know, even after the episode ended, the fear I experienced, it stayed with me. Every shadow in my room began to resemble an angel waiting for the fleeting moment when I would blink. The fear of turning off the lights, knowing what could be lurking in the darkness, made me question the very notion of safety that I had comforted myself with. And I think that's insane. You know, I stopped sleeping with the light off as a kid because of it, because I was so scared. My older sister wasn't too happy, but thankfully she was quite a bit older than me, so by the time I was going to bed, she was just chilling. And so she'd have to wait for me to be asleep before she could turn the light off, because I would cry. And I'm not saying that to be funny, I would literally cry. It was the worst thing you could do. That light was not going off. No weeping angel was getting the bloody better of me. Blink transcended the boundaries of a typical science fiction story and embedded itself deep within my psyche. It reminded me that fear comes in many forms and that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones we least expect. And I think you've got to think about the concept of it more. I don't know the word, so I'm not going to try and use a word, so I'm just going to tell you to know what's going on in my brain despite the fact you can't. Sorry about that. Maybe one day I'll be good with words, but not today. But angels are typically viewed in this positive light, and maybe that's because of Christianity. Maybe it's due to other things. I don't really know much about angels per se, but we view them as a source of light. We view them at Christmas time as like holy and kind and nice. They give us messages. You know, they're a sign of goodness. And I think that's the false sense of security that it lulls you into. You look at these angels and you see serenity and peace, and they're anything bloody but. They're horrendous. They're terrifying. And where I lived, there's an angel statue just down the road from me, and I remember all the times as a kid we passed this statue. I went from loving it to hating it. And I'm not ashamed of that. I still do a bit of a double take every time I look at it just to make sure that it's not actually moving, you know? So I think that's one of the things about it that's so scary as well. I mean, not only does Blink provide a spine-tingling thrill, it also shows the capability of Doctor Who. I mean, I may not have worded this 100% effectively, but in most shows you have a main character, and the main character stays the same throughout, and you've got to root for the main character, and there's scarcely an episode where the main character isn't heavily featured, you know. But, Doctor Who doesn't care for that. In the story that I covered the other week about the Absorbaloff, we had Elton. Yeah, I didn't root for him as much, I didn't really care, but it was still a nice ambition, and it was before, I think it might have been testing the waters maybe, but Sally Sparrow is brilliant. And she has us rooting for her. And she's a character we've never met, and we don't really know much about her. She's, as far as we can tell, she's got no relation to the Doctor currently. And I think part of the reason why she works so well as a protagonist is because of the angels. And I think it's because of how terrifying they are. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I think I'd root for my worst enemy over the angels, and that is saying something, you know. That's pretty impressive. But yeah, if the angels weren't as terrifying, maybe we wouldn't root for her as much. But I mean, I think Sally Sparrow is just a likable character, and I keep saying I really want to see her back. I even played The Lonely Assassins, which is it's a little game, and it's a mobile game. I might film myself playing it sometime for my channel, and yeah. But I really enjoyed it. I really liked it. And the only thing about it is Sally Sparrow's not really in it. So that's just, I'm not going to go into the storyline. I don't want to ruin that. And I think having Sally Sparrow in it would have made it better because I really, really like her as a character. She's a cool character. But yeah, you know, it definitely helps that the angels were so terrifying. But she's funny, she's smart, and she's capable. She's quite capable, and she's not perfect, definitely not. She's scared, but wouldn't you be, you know? But I absolutely love her. Now, the angels terrified me so much as a child that I never managed to watch The Angels Take Manhattan. I was very scared of this episode, and I remember when it was advertised, not only was I was devastated because Amy Pond and Rory, they were leaving, and I was about 7, 8 at that point, and I just couldn't take it. Emotionally, that felt like too much. But the angels definitely played a huge factor in me not watching the episode years after I'd sort of lessened the emotional attachment to characters, because the thing is, I'm autistic. Maybe Doctor Who is not the ideal show for me because I get so attached to characters and breaks my heart. I cry every time the Doctor regenerates. I cry every time a companion leaves. I say, oh, I'm not going to watch the next Doctor. Like, for instance, when Matt Smith left, I stopped watching Doctor Who and I didn't watch Peter Capaldi for quite a while. And then I watched it a few months later, and Peter Capaldi became my favourite Doctor. So, yeah, crazy behaviour right there. But that was neurodivergency, so that's fun. But, no. I was so scared of The Angels Take Manhattan, and I couldn't watch it. And I'm happy to say now that I have watched it, and I love it. I know quite a few people don't like the way that the angels ended up. They don't like the development of the angels, and that's okay. That's your opinion. You are completely allowed to have it. And I'm not someone who watches something with the most my brain's not critically engaged, if you know what I mean. I'm just watching something and I'm quite dull. If something makes me laugh, if it's enjoyable, now so that I'm older, if I find it scary enough, if I get like a good jump out of it, then I think it's a good show or a good film. So I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, it's not good because of this, or oh, it is good because of this. It's just good because it entertained me, you know. So I completely understand that people have some valid criticisms of the development of the Weeping Angels. Perfectly fine. But I personally love them. And I love them still. And even so, in The Village of the Angels, I really liked them. I just wish they'd done more with the Doctor. Now, this is a spoiler for The Village of the Angels, but considering we're a whole series ahead, hopefully you've watched it by now. Don't be put off by the fact that some people were put off because of the whole Timeless Child arc. I'm not going to go into that. That's not something I want to go into because there's lots of opinions and lots of theories out there, and we've all got our own, we've all got them. So, yeah. But I definitely recommend giving it a watch. I don't think it's fair to write Jodie's Doctor off because I think Jodie Whittaker does an absolutely amazing job with the material she's given, and I love her as a Doctor. This is going to be a bit of a tangent, but I remember at school once we were doing a school play of like traveling through time, and I wanted to be the Doctor. I was desperate to be the Doctor. I lent the school like a sonic screwdriver, a inflatable Dalek. I lent them all this, and I auditioned to be the Doctor. I knew all the words, and the teacher said, "You can't be the Doctor, you are a girl." And I felt really bitter about that for years. I still do. It still hurts. And thankfully, like now there's been a female Doctor, I was very happy. I was very happy. It was nice to see a female Doctor, especially as like a fan of the show who's watched it since I was a little girl. You know, it was lovely. But yeah, that's enough of the tangent. But I like the development of the Angels, and I think they're good in Village of the Angels. I was about to say Village of the Idiots. I don't know why. Sometimes my brain just doesn't engage with my mouth. But anyway, yeah. The development of the Angels I quite like, as I've said like 500 times now. So, anyway, friends, this is where I am ending the video, as I'm still terrified of the Angels, but I love them. And I think that's personal growth. To continue to be scared of something, but to love them for what they are, you know? And I love them for the fear they induce, and I love them just because of the creativity. Who looks at a statue and thinks, blink, and it moves? I mean, maybe quite a few people, maybe I'm the odd one there, but who thinks to write it into this terrifying monster in Doctor Who? And I know the angels didn't kill you. That wasn't the part that scared me. I didn't want them to kill me or anything. For me, the concept of being sent back in time to a place without my family, without my friends, where no one knew me, it was so terrifying. And it instilled fear in me. I mean, now I'm not so scared of being sent back in time because of ditching my friends, you know. I barely talk to them now. For me, what's terrifying is going back to a time where there's less acceptance, you know? Like, for instance, I am a woman who loves other women, and to go back to a time where that's frowned upon or where I could be beaten up in the street. I'm very lucky with where I live. I live in a town called Brighton, which is very accepting towards the LGBTQIA plus community. But to be sent back to a time where walking down the street just holding the hands of another woman or just being accused of being gay, you could get beaten up. That's terrifying. I don't want to go back. So, any angels out there, if you're watching this, you weeping beasts, don't send me back in time. I won't be happy. Anyway, it's hurting me to talk so much, and I've been doing a lot of talking, but my throat is not in the best mood. So, I'm going to end it now. If you did enjoy this video, please like and subscribe. Comment down below your scariest Doctor Who story, and I will be back to gaming next week. I think I'm going to even play The Edge of Reality. Now, I've heard mixed reviews about it. Some say it's good, some say it's bad. I guess we'll find out, won't we? Anyway, look after yourselves, be kind and courteous to one another. Much love. And remember, don't blink. Blink and you're dead. They're fast, faster than you could believe. Don't turn your back. Don't look away. And don't blink. Good luck.